Have to get you on the show at some point. Cool. Cool. And yeah, when you're done eating or you have a break or you catch something I say that you don't like, come hop on, man. Feel free. All right, that was a quick countdown. What's going on? I guess I thought a minute would go by a little bit slower, but it didn't. So what's going on, everybody? I'm Ari Temkin. We're live at the Irishman, Preston and Frankfurt. Come hang out. I'll be here today and tomorrow, and then we're done here at the Irishman, at least for this week. My buddy Don with the Cowboys Fans Club is here. What's the website again, Don? Fans.club. FANZ.club. Go check out the Dallas Cowboys and the Southern California watch parties, everything going on with the Fans Club. Again, fans.club. So shout out to Don, who does great work with the fan club and putting on great watch parties every single week. Brings together a lot of cool Cowboys fans, brings them all together at one place for a really good time. All right, I'm Ari Temkin. We're broadcasting live on Phantom, Facebook's live sports network, the new world order of sports media, if you will. Broadcasting live at the Irishman Pub. And so I've got some insight. I was able to go in the Cowboys locker room yesterday after practice, talk to some players. Travis Frederick spoke, so kind of I'll have an update on that. Some interesting insight into the Giants. I was able to watch the Jaguars game from last week as well. So we'll get into all that coming up here in a moment, but that's funny. Velcro. Sticks to everything. All right. Eric Shaney, Kerry Teagle all in the house. Hold on one second. I just want to make sure I'm hitting the share button on this so we can get everybody in on this party. Sean Moore says, okay, what's this crazy rumor about Dez being brought in as a wide receivers coach? It's probably just that, Sean. Probably just a crazy rumor. G. Garcia in the house. What's up, G? Eric, or Sean, you're a reasonable person. Do you really think that Dez Bryant would join Jason Garrett's coaching staff after he's basically ripped him nonstop since being released by the Dallas Cowboys? Hold on one second. I'm just trying to share this. Everybody else do the same thing, please. All right. And boom. Also, if you wouldn't mind, tag some friends of yours. If they're Cowboys friends that you think might be interested in this, make sure to hit the tag button as well. Broadcasting live from the Irishman Pub. If you're in the area, again, come on out. Come hang out at Preston and Frankfurt Road. Great food. You know, the other day I had a great sandwich. I had a salad yesterday, another salad today. I had the Caesar salad today. The house salad's really good. Tremendous food here. Over 30 beers on tap. Great place to watch soccer games. They have Tottenham watch parties here for Tottenham soccer. So college football Saturdays, NFL Sundays, Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt Road. And again, if you come hang out with us while I'm here, you could use a coupon that is on the events page for Phantom, and it gives you half off appetizers here. So if you come on out, make sure to use that, the half off appetizers. And, of course, make sure to give a shout-out to Phantom while you're here. So that we know that our advertisers are people are coming in from Phantom. All right. G. Garcia says, please no Dez talk. Sean Moore says that would be as dumb as adding Matt Moore as the quarterback's coach. So I guess here's my question to you, Sean. Where did you hear that? I've heard no such rumors. The only rumor that I heard about Dez was that Dez was telling people at the Beyonce Jay-Z concert that asked. He was basically saying that he was going to join the Patriots. That's apparently what the rumor was about Dez. But I've heard no such rumor that he was going to join the coaching staff. Also, it seems ridiculous. One, because he could still play, and two, because he's got Jason Garrett and him. I wouldn't say are not necessarily the best of friends. Although I will add that according to Brian Broaddus, the last guy to sign off on releasing Dez was Jason Garrett. All right, Joe Chanchina in the house, watching from Sicily. Joe, are you going to stay up Sunday night? I guess that'd be Monday morning for you. So so the game will start at 7:30 Central Time. Is it an 8-hour difference in Sicily, Joe? So you're going to stay up and watch that game? I remember being in Europe and trying to watch NFL games, especially Sunday night games. It was basically impossible. All right, Thelma Gooden says Tony Romo for coach. Also, so does James Johnson. So that's what I'm asking you. Give me the thumbs up. So, I was listening to 105 through the Fan this morning. That's where I host the pre- and post-game show for the Dallas Cowboys. And on G-Bag Nation, and Mike Bassick was basically saying that he was done with Jason Garrett. I'm done with Jason Garrett. I'm through with him. Bassick, who is a unbelievably big Cowboys fan, as most of you are, was basically saying that he's ready to forfeit the entire season. I'm ready to lose games because I'm sick and tired of Jason Garrett being their head coach. So I'm asking you, thumbs up if you agree with that, or heart if you say, no, I don't care if it means that Garrett stays. I want this team to win football games, especially 1 week in. I mean, it's not fun to go through a 16-week football season just trying to tank. I mean, tanking's okay when you get 2 months in, 3 months in, but 1 weekend to be already there? It seems ridiculous. Shelly Oggins says, hell yes. Rich Porter says, will carrot head, gum-chewing, hand-clapping Garrett be the head coach after week 2? So it appears as though I'm getting a massive influx of thumbs up on this. So nonstop thumbs up from people. Don, are you a Jason Garrett fan? Are you a Jason Garrett fan? You don't think Garrett's the problem? But do you like him as a coach? What do you think he needs? A better quarterback? That's fair. Don Burr, by the way, in the house here at the Irishman from the Dallas Cowboys Fans Club, fanz.club to check out what they've got going on, fanz.club to check out what they've got going on. Watch parties in Dallas and in Southern California. So if you live in either of those areas, one, if you live in Dallas, you should be out here. So shame on you. Actually, not really. But yeah, if you're in Southern California or Dallas, check out fanz.club to check out where you can find those great watch parties. Don Burr, who's leading that whole charge for it. And who do you have Sunday coming out? Lincoln Coleman this weekend. And you had how was Corey Proctor last weekend? Awesome. You'll have to have him back again. I've heard he's a good guy. He's working for the Cowboys in some way, right? Oh. Because I saw him in Oxnard, and he's at the facility. I don't know. Maybe he's just kind of like, doing whatever they need or something. Anyway, so Lincoln Coleman will be there in Dallas this weekend, and then Corey Proctor was there last Sunday. So they always have really cool ex-Cowboys out there. Christopher Kuhn says they should have never let Romo go. Debbie Vincelli says, good morning, Ari. Good morning, Debbie. How are you? It's actually good afternoon in the Central Time Zone, but that's fine. You're probably not in the Central Time Zone if you're saying that. Christopher Kuhn says they keep making terrible decisions. So here's what I have to say about they should have kept Romo, which is something I hear a lot now. And, to me, and I always go back and forth with my buddy Jeremy about this, but, because Jeremy's a huge Romo guy, and he basically said that from the start. He's a huge Cowboys fan who was a big Romo fan and basically was he doesn't like the Cowboys anymore because he thought that they did Romo wrong. And what I always say to him is, Romo was at a point in his career, and this is not exactly an accurate statistic, but it's pretty close. Every sack he took, he was getting injured. I mean, that's where he was at the point of his career. He could not take a sack. He could not take a hit without going on IR, without being injured. And remember, he suffered an injury. He was on the shelf. He came back. He took a hit. He suffered another injury. So, I get the sentiment that the Cowboys shouldn't have shouldn't have chosen Dak over Romo. we know that at that point in his career, Romo was obviously a better quarterback because, of course, he was playing 10 years in versus a guy that was 3 years in. But at the same time, like Romo, how can you trust a guy that continually had his body breaking down? You cannot have a successful team when you have no trust that your quarterback can sustain hits and stay in the football game. So, I get it, and I think it's almost. I actually wrote about this right after the fact. It was so perfectly Romo. Like his career, like that was the ending of his career was the perfect metaphor for his career. When you talk about they never had a top 10 defense when Romo was their quarterback. They never really, there were a few times where they had a pretty good offensive line, but especially in the latter stages, their offensive line was a joke. It was one of the worst offensive lines in football, which is why they drafted Tyra, then they drafted Travis Frederick, they drafted Zach Martin, which is why they put so much. Jerry never took a offensive lineman with a first round pick until he took Tyron Smith, and then a few years later he took Travis Frederick, and then a year later he took Zach Martin. So, they finally had an offensive line. They finally drafted him a running back in Zeke Elliott. So it was like they finally had all of the pieces in place that were going to make Romo successful. And then by that time, it was too late for Romo. It's like the perfect metaphor for his career. It's unbelievable. All right, so I'm asking everybody, if you're a Cowboys fan, you obviously want them to win, but I know that the sentiment around Jason Garrett is very negative. There's just not many fans left that want to continue down this path with Jason Garrett. I know the fan had a poll out, and it was basically like 93% wanted Garrett gone. 93% of the people that responded to that poll on Twitter said they wanted him gone. So the question is, like, are you at the point now where you're so done with Garrett where you're ready to forfeit this season in order to have Garrett out, or are you rather just a Cowboys fan that is always going to root for them to win, even if it means that Garrett stays? Give me the thumbs up if you want Garrett gone, even if it means you forfeit the season. Give me the heart emoji if you'd rather see them win, regardless of if that means that Garrett's going to stay as their head coach. All right, checking back in on the Phantom page. Post your comments. Make sure to hit the share button. If you're watching this on YouTube, shout out to you. I'll get over there in a second. But a reminder that the fastest way to have your comments read, no matter what page you're watching this on, is to go to facebook.com/watchphantom. That's facebook.com/watchphantom. The spelling is in the top right corner of the screen. WATCH Phantom. Facebook.com/watchphantom. You post there, your comments get read quicker. Lawrence Short says, is there any possible way the Cowboys win and Jason Garrett still gets replaced? No. If the Cowboys win and make the playoffs, you're not going to fire a coach after making the playoffs. And I do think it's that cut and dried this year with Garrett, whereas there's no excuses. If they don't make the playoffs, he's out. So, but I don't think there's any circumstance in which the Cowboys keep him or get rid of him. And by the way, they shouldn't. If they make the playoffs, you don't fire a coach, make the playoffs. Jennifer Briggs says, can Jerry Jones be an owner, not a manager? Look, I think Jerry has deferred a lot of those responsibilities lately. Like the Cowboys 15 years ago, the Cowboys 10 years ago, a little bit different than the Cowboys today. Will McClay, Stephen Jones, Jason Garrett, offensive coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, they all play important roles when it comes to personnel and acquisition. And that's the bottom line. Jerry is less of a GM now than he's ever been, but he still is involved in a lot of the operations, and he still, overshadows the entire organization. And he's still, when you have an organization, the coach sort of wants to set the narrative. They want their comments to be the only comments that get out there, and yet Jerry will consistently say things that will contradict what Jason Garrett says. So that, even if Jerry is away from and not mingling as much in the general manager and personnel department, he still gets in the way of the head coach in many, especially when it comes to, making public comments. All right, let's see here. Sean Moore says claps to the poll results. 93% want Jason Garrett gone. Scott Butler is on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. He says Garrett is Mr. Clap happy. Even when the Cowboys are losing, it's like he's not afraid to be fired. Also, Johnson Nicole Amy. I'm assuming that's Amy Nicole Johnson, and I'm just reading it backwards. Says we need to change. Garrett's old news, and obviously not what we need. Yeah, I think I certainly have not been a fan of Jason Garrett. I think that Garrett, he's a great motivational coach. I think he can relate to players, and he really understands how to motivate players. But I also think, and he can install a game plan, but the ability to deviate from the game plan, evolve from that game plan, is, as we've seen, not something he's willing to do. Devin Roddy says, not true, remember Jimmy Johnson. Well, of course, but he's the exception to it. Curtis Starks is in the house. Keith Stone. Keith Stone says, hey, Ari, how you doing, man? Shared. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate that. Diego Meistes says, all the new coaches around the league were 0-7 this past week, including Chucky. Just saying. Yeah, no, it's true. 0-7 for new. It was the first time in NFL history that all of the first-year head coaches, all of the new coaches went 0-7 with their new team. Jennifer Briggs says, too long with the losing. We need to change. Tyler Cutright says, but Steven seems to be running things very much the same way. I disagree with that. And Eric, by the way, Eric Koscielny wants us to. Eric Koscielny's like Bill Belichick right now. Like we're on to the Giants is what Eric Koscielny's saying. And I'll get to the Giants in a moment here. But I think Steven is drastically different than Jerry. At least, like remember, Jerry is the Cowboys after this season will finally be out of salary cap hell. Like they have the Tony Romo deal. They kept kicking the can down the road and signing bad contracts and having all the dead money. Like that was the Jerry Jones era of personnel. Steven has overcorrected. I mean, that if you want to make an argument about Steven being similar to Jerry, it's that he's so stubborn and sticking to one way of doing things, which is drafting, developing those players, and then only paying those guys. They obviously do not pay outside free agents. They haven't really since Brandon Carr. So I mean it's drastically different than Jerry, because Jerry would just go out and spend money on everybody, but it got the Cowboys in a bad situation where they were in salary cap hell. So now they've overcorrected in a sense, and now they don't spend any money, and they're so stubborn about their own players. Spencer Cooper says, if we don't make it to the NFC Championship game, we need to get rid of Garrett. Spencer, that's not going to happen. If the Cowboys make the playoffs, Garrett's going to be back, regardless of what the outcome of the season is. Regardless of if they don't get to the NFC Championship game. Let's see here. What else we got? Alexander Scott says, if they lose this week, they're not going to the playoffs, sadly. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the belief that it's not a must-win until it literally is a must-win. However, if you start 0-2 in the NFL, you make the playoffs 8% of the time. So, it certainly is a must-win for the Cowboys, because there's basically a 92% chance they won't make the playoffs if they start 0-2, based on history in the NFL. I'm Ari Temkin. We're live at the Irishman Pub at Preston and Frankfurt. Great food, over 30 beers on tap, great drink selection. They just have a new drink menu out too, which you can see here. Ooh. And we're broadcasting live on Phantom, the new world order of sports media, delivering live sports and live sports content to the digital spaces where you are. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all those places, that's where we are. All right, checking out the YouTube page of Law Nation. By the way, if you guys don't know Law Nation, go check him out. He's got a great Facebook page, Law Nation, also on YouTube. Go make sure to like his page. Joseph Candelaria in the house. Joseph Candelaria, I think, is the one heart emoji that I've seen suggesting that he doesn't care if Jason Garrett stays. He just wants the Cowboys to win. But the majority of the people I've seen have given me the thumbs up, which means they're done with Garrett and they'd like to see him go, regardless of if it means they're losing this whole season, even in the second week of the season. Joseph Candelaria with a great question. How many teams have an average head coach? Every. Pretty much. There's probably 3, 4, 5, I would say, above average head coaches, and the majority of the other head coaches are probably average. And what I mean by that is, they probably by the book, sort of, not really willing to evolve, not really, willing to implement sort of the advanced analytics that would improve, scheming, game planning, play calling, those kinds of things. Neri says we need a new coach and OC. Well, good news, Neri. If they get a new head coach, they will definitely have a new OC. All right, let's see here. Just going to go real quickly, scroll through some of the other Facebook pages we're broadcasting live across. Let's check out the Jobu Sports Report. My buddy Mark Holmes does great work on the Jobu Sports Report. Make sure to check it out on YouTube and on Facebook. Max Julian says, don't worry, I'll wait. In reference to what? I don't know. All right, the Dallas Cowboys Really Real fan page. Another great page to go check out. A lot of great pages with Dallas Cowboys content on. Nobody commenting over there. Let's see, where else we at? Broadcasting live on EBSN Online, along with the Silver and Blue Nation page and the Big Game James page. All those pages intertwined, intermingled. And shout out to Gary Likens, producer G, and Big Game James. Daniel Mendoza says, yes, Garrett needs to be gone with his clapping ass. Coach is trash. A lot of love for Jason Garrett in the comments today. I'm asking you, give me the thumbs up if you're a Cowboys fan, but you're fine seeing them lose, a ton of games so that you know that Jason Garrett will be gone. Hit the thumbs up emoji. Or if you're the opposite and you just want them to win regardless, even if it means that Garrett stays, give me the heart emoji. Post your comments. G. Garcia says, you think Lincoln Riley leaves OU during the season? I do not. All right, on the Law Nation page, Robert Holm in the house, Vincent Bobo, Chris Cantu says he's average at best. Leonard Henry says we just need a new play designer. These plays are so old and predictable. I think that's a fairly consistent, prevalent thought for a lot of Cowboys fans. By the way, I'm broadcasting live at the Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt. Come say hi if you're in the area. Erica Shaney says, really real, LOL. Also broadcasting on the Dallas Cowboys report page. I think it gets to a point where there's so many pages for Cowboys that you kind of have to become creative, which is why you get like the Dallas Cowboys America's Team in quotes or Dallas Cowboys Really Real in quotes fan page. All right, on the Dallas Cowboys report page, Ruben Perez says, what's up, Ari? What's up, Ruben? How are you? Ekro Hernandez gives me the heart eyes, which was not an emoji I asked you for. Jessica Clark says Garrett needs to be gone. Nick Henderson says we'll continue down this disappointing path as long as our coaches coach on this below par level. Brian Vegas says time to try something new. Martha Valdez says hello. I guess here's my question to you. So there's overwhelming support for getting rid of Jason Garrett. That there's no question about that. Overwhelming support for replacing Jason Garrett. So my question to you is, how much will your sentiment change if the Cowboys win on Sunday night? And is there an outcome on Sunday night that would change your mentality? If the Cowboys win by 14 points, are you now feeling differently about Jason Garrett as head coach? That's my question to you because, look, it's been a very myopic week for Cowboys fans, and we've talked about that on the stream throughout this week. That when you win in the NFL, things are good, and but when you lose, it's like you're never going to win because everything's heightened, and it's amazing considering the Cowboys played so poorly throughout the majority of the game and still were in position to win the game. Still were in position to tie the game, I should say. A one-possession game with the ball in the fourth quarter. So, statistically on offense, the Cowboys were pretty close to what the Panthers had. Statistically, they're pretty evenly matched statistically, which is kind of amazing. So it just goes to show you that in Charlotte, the thought process and the conversations in Charlotte, vastly different than they are in Dallas. The sky's falling. And now I get it. It's not like it's a new coach. This is 9 years now for Jason Garrett. So I know there's a lot of fatigue from the fan base generally with Garrett. So what happened on Sunday was sort of reinforcing what fans already believe, So I certainly understand that sentiment. All right, on the Phantom Facebook page, Jennifer Briggs gives you the thumbs up. Thumbs up, Jennifer Briggs. Eric Koshaney says, so far I don't care for Stephen Jones' way of thinking either. He's just like his daddy. Stubborn. But, I would say if you're going to go one path or the other, Jerry and just the thrifty spend as much money as you want versus the Stephen Jones draft and develop. I'd rather go with the draft and develop. That is fundamentally how you build a championship roster in the NFL. Now, the second piece to that is you have to shore up some of the holes you weren't able to in free agency. That's the truth. It's you're not going to be able to fulfill every positional group to make yourself championship caliber through the draft. So you have to supplement the areas you have missed through free agency. And that's, there's an article out today by Bill Barnwell from ESPN, who's in my opinion, one of the best NFL writers out there. And he's talking about how you look at Chicago and you look at the Rams and you look at teams that have quarterbacks on rookie deals. They went out and they've spent a ton of money in free agency because they aren't, the majority of teams that have a franchise quarterback are spending the majority of their salary cap on their quarterback. So when you don't have to do that because you've got a rookie contract or a young quarterback on a rookie deal, you have to then overcompensate in other areas because that's your window to win and spend a ton of money on other areas. And that's the Cowboys. The other teams we're talking about, Chicago and the Rams. I mean, these are first-round draft picks at quarterback. So the amount of money that those teams are spending on their quarterback are still so much more than the Cowboys are, considering the Cowboys, as long as Dak Prescott's been their quarterback, have spent, I think this year is the most he's made, obviously, which is like $500,000 per year, $400,000, something like that, $460,000. So, the criticism of the Cowboys in, why are you not going out and using your money to fortify positional groups of need? And, we can sit here and hem and haw about Earl Thomas, but what about Honey Badger and Tyrann Mathieu? What about some of these other safeties that were available in free agency? What about the receiver position? I know they try to go out and sign Sammy Watkins, and spend some money there, but, he was the only option for them. Beyond Sammy Watkins, they had no other interest in other receivers potentially to be number one there. It just seems the Cowboys right now have $19 million in open cap space to spend. It's gone unused. It's not a good move to basically throw away seasons when you've got a rookie quarterback, basically, or a quarterback on a rookie contract. It's so cheap where you can, whereas if the Cowboys do spend a ton of money on Dak this offseason, and, the jury's still out there, now they have to be more creative when it comes to trying to shore up other holes in other areas in free agency. So it just hasn't made any sense. The Cowboys haven't really spent any money beyond some of the guys they've retained, offensive linemen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They haven't gone out to bring in outside free agents since Brandon Carr, and they've had the cap space and the money to do so. Wade Zetterberg in the house says, Honey Badger don't care. That's the one that's this guy's been a playmaker every year he's been in the NFL. I know he's got character concerns and issues, but that hasn't stopped the Cowboys before. So not entirely sure why it would now. Diego Maesta says if Dak doesn't ball out this year, I'm all for drafting a first-round quarterback. Yep. Agreed. I think, the thing is, you don't want to draft the top five too often. And if the Cowboys are, if the Cowboys start to go south and, things don't go well, whatever, this will be the second time they'd be drafting in the top five in 4 years. It's not good. And the reason you take a quarterback in the top five is because you don't want to be drafting the top five very often, and a quarterback in the top five is your best path to getting a franchise-type quarterback. There are very few. You survey the starting quarterbacks in the NFL, the majority of them are first-round draft picks. It's not a coincidence. Jarrett Stidham. Chris Bennett says pay Dak and sign Earl Thomas this offseason. There's a chance that 100% of those things happen, Chris. There's a chance that 0% of those things happen. Keith Stone says there's no good quarterback in the upcoming draft, though. Just wait, Keith. It's a long college football season. Guys cream will rise to the top. That every year it sort of starts off where it's like, well, who is the guy? And then every year you get to the end of the year, it's you see who the potential franchise type guys are. And I'm trying to think. There was one guy, what school that would have, could have been a draft pick last year, but came back, and they're thinking that he could be a top, the number one quarterback taken. Again, I'm trying to think. Now I can't remember who it was, but there's a few guys out there already. Let's see here. On the Dallas Cowboys America's Team Facebook page, Brian Walker says Honey Badger gets hurt too much. Okay, but again, there were options available to the Cowboys at safety this offseason, and They did nothing to improve their safety position this offseason. Now, after 1 week, safety position looked pretty good. This is going to be a big game, though, for their safeties. Now I talked to Jeff Heath yesterday. The interview with Jeff Heath that I have will be available on the Cowboys Beat podcast, which will come out tomorrow. So make sure to subscribe to the Cowboys Beat podcast on iTunes, wherever you download or listen to podcasts. But I was sort of asking him about, what this matchup, what they'll, be forced to do in this matchup. Evan Ingram. So I think the Cowboys, in many ways, were fortunate that Greg Olsen, basically got hurt early on in the game and they didn't return. Because he could have presented a major, major problem to their safeties and their linebacking core. But now this week they've got Evan Ingram, who is a really, really good tight end. I mean, he's very. I mean, he's basically another receiver. So when you look at Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard, and I talk about a guy like Evan Ingram. I mean, this is where Kayvon Frazier and Jeff Heath are going to play humongous roles. I mean, that's this is the Giants are a vastly different team than Carolina insofar as, Carolina had McCaffrey, but not many weapons on the outside, and they had Olsen, right? But a really good quarterback that you really have to account for. Eli, he's on the downslide. He's didn't look very good in week 1. I mean, he missed, if you watch the game, he missed some throws. He missed some easy touchdown throws to Odell Beckham. Easy touchdown throws to Odell Beckham. He left on the field. Plus they don't have a very good offensive line. I mean, I know they drafted Will Hernandez and they added, Nate Solder, but they're just not a good offensive line. They were one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL last year, and they haven't improved drastically. So, so their offensive line is not great. Their quarterback's not great, but they've got great weapons in Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham and Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard, and so. That's going to be the big matchup this week. Is can the Cowboys basically do the opposite, which is not necessarily contain Manning, but make sure that they're accounting for all these different players and all these different chess pieces. And to me, that's it's certainly on the front seven to get after the quarterback. And I really liked the play calling from Rod Marinelli and Chris Richard early on, which was really get after Cam early on. And if you watched my streams last week, I hampered on that point. Like, Cam is kind of a front runner. He when things go well, when they're winning at halftime. And by the way, it's now 1-0 to start the year for Carolina. They were 10-0 last year when leading at halftime. The Carolina Panthers were 10-0 last year when leading at halftime. That was the stat I went to. Now they're 1-0 this year when leading at halftime, obviously. But the point being that the game plan defensively was right on. Get after him early. And I think the same will be true for Eli Manning this week, obviously, with the lack of the offensive line that they have. Eli Manning not being very mobile, being more of a pocket passer. They're going to have to get pressure to him and get home so they can kind of neutralize all the stars that the Giants have. That's the big defensive battle. I mean, it's a lot different this week where the quarterback and the offensive line aren't very good, but they've got a ton of weapons, and Evan Ingram is a really, really good tight end, guys. I mean, he could have a humongous game against the Cowboys, especially with the Cowboys basically starting 2 strong safeties at safety. Larry Manick says, Ari, the Cowboys never had a chance this year. Then you are from the school of thought of Wade Zetterberg. Eric Kashani's in the draft Jarrett Stidham camp from Auburn. Sean Moore says Dak is a discount Cam Newton. All right, on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page, Deanna Elizabeth Salazar says Bailey cut equals dumb money move. It wasn't a money move. It was not a money move. They cut Dan Bailey because they didn't. I mean, I guess they were worried about his mentality, psychology. I mean, I don't think it was a good move, but it wasn't to cut money. I mean, they had $16 million open, and now they have $19 million open. So they saved $3 million against the cap. But what? They're not spending it. So I mean, they didn't need the money. It didn't really change much for them. So, I mean, I think, when I was doing the post-game show with where I was doing the pregame show with Jesse Holly, and then we watched the game together, and right before the kick, he looks at me and he goes, he's going to miss this kick. Now, obviously, it didn't really factor to the outcome of the game. Maybe it would have because they wouldn't have been down 8. It might have changed their play calling down the stretch, whatever. But, there was a lot of pressure on the kicker after they cut, the second most accurate kicker in NFL history to add him. And it's funny because Jesse Holly was like, I bet you he's going to miss this one. Mark Rawson says, who will have the most yards this week, Zeke, Barkley, or Odell? Great question. Who will have the most yards this week? Zeke, Saquon Barkley, or Odell Beckham Jr.? Man, that's a great question. Don, what do you think? It won't be who? It won't be Zeke? That's fair. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Although, he only has 3 games in his entire career under 70 yards. And one of them was last week, so what are the chances he has another one with back-to-back weeks? Now, granted, he can have 71 yards. Yeah. I guess the smart money's on Beckham. You know, smart money's on Beckham. Because I think the Cowboys' game plan is going to be to stop Saquon. That's what I think. I think the Cowboys are going to try to force the Giants to be one-dimensional. And I brought this up yesterday. I mean, you know, they'd rather take their chances with their pass rush against Eli and making them one-dimensional. So I'll go with, of those 3 that you gave me, Zeke, Odell, or Saquon. I'll go with Odell Beckham Jr. will have the most yards. What'd you say? What's that? What were his comments? Yeah. I mean, so I heard a stat from Jeff Kavanaugh this morning on 105 to the Fan, and he said that since Dak Prescott's been the starting quarterback of the Cowboys, they have the least amount of deep pass attempts. So, you know, and that to me seems like both scheme and a little bit of Dak. And maybe it's because Garrett and Linehan don't want him to make mistakes, they've impressed that upon him. You know, don't make the mistakes. Don't make the mistakes. We'd rather live, you know, with long field. And that's when I talked to Scott Linehan at training camp, that's what he said. We want long offensive possessions. We want to, you know, we want to win the time of possession battle. And it's not a stat that normally means you have a successful drive, but that's what the Cowboys want to be by design. So they don't want to beat you with big plays through the air. But I think the Cowboys are at a point right now where defensive coordinators look at them and say, you can't beat us with Dak Prescott. You can't beat us with Dak Prescott. And I think, you know, there are some teams you could beat being one-dimensional. But not Carolina. I mean, not the Giants. I mean, they're you know, you're not gonna be a playoff team being one-dimensional. And so I think, you know, obviously that's going to be the biggest question for this team every single week until they force teams to play them honestly. I mean, if you look at the way Carolina played them, there's that second and 17 where Carolina stacked the box against them. It's like nobody's respecting Dak's ability whatsoever to throw. And remember, Carolina, I mean, their bread and butter is their front seven. They don't have the corners. They didn't have the corners to match up, even with a receiving core that's lacking here. But yet I defer to what the game plan was for the Cowboys, which was West Coast style, you know, quick passes, get the ball out, not deep drops. They didn't want to, you know, put their offensive line or even Dak in position to, to take a lot of sacks. All right, I'm Ari Temkin. We're broadcasting live on Phantom, the new world order of sports media. Shout out to all of our partners streaming this page across their channels. Also broadcasting live on the Law Nation YouTube page. Checking some of the comments over there. But a reminder that the quickest way and the most effective way to have your comments read is by commenting at facebook.com/watch Phantom, as I cannot be at all places at once, and I'm still trying to make my own points, so it's hard to sort of navigate all these different pages and all the different comments. Everybody's comments important, and I want to get to everybody's comments so that you can have your comments heard, questions read. But the quickest way to have your comments read is by going and posting them at facebook.com/watch Phantom. Facebook.com/watch Phantom. Larry Mannix says Ari also said Cowboys would have over 9.5 wins this season, so that's true. I did. I predicted they'd go 10-6. I did say that. Sean Moore says 8 out of the last 9 games, Dak has not thrown for even 200 yards. Yeah, that's true. But I also think that statistic's a little unfair, again, because he's played a lot of those games without Tyron Smith and Zeke Elliott. All right, let's see here. On the Law Nation YouTube page, Jeremy Pearlstein in the house. He says, Ari, what do you think about Jordan Lewis' effort this year? There were 2 things that stuck out to me. His effort on that Lenovo dropped punt where he didn't go for the ball on the ground and looked careless. The video where Chris Richard was yelling at defense and Lewis just standing there looking like he didn't care. Is this a reach? No, I mean, I don't think it's a reach at all. Jordan Lewis played in a total of 0 snaps on Sunday. So, yeah, I mean, here's a guy that I think there were pretty high expectations for coming into this season. And, I mean, one, there's not a scheme fit. Chris Richard has always, favored the bigger corners. He's always favored those. So Lewis is obviously an undersized corner, so he didn't have that going for him. And then Jeremy, as you said, when you sort of pinpoint some of the things, from an attitude perspective, I mean, he played in 0 snaps in Week 1. So I think that kind of tells you how the coaching staff feels about Jordan Lewis. Scott D'Amico says Dak had a guy open deep 5+ times, didn't throw it. Yeah, and look. We always do this when the game. I mean, it's really easy for us to survey the field in hindsight, and when we can. I mean, look, when you develop as a quarterback, I think the ability to see the whole field and read the whole field is probably the last thing that you end up developing, and some never do. And I certainly think that's a major question mark about Dak Prescott. He missed some guys open. But I also hate to play that game every week because you can literally do that with all different players and all different quarterbacks every week on every play. And there's so many. It's easy to look and see. Well, this guy's open. Why didn't he throw it there? I mean, because maybe the play called for him to be looking and wonder. I mean, you just never know. There's so many things that go into it, and I hate to just play Monday morning quarterback on that kind of a thing. I mean, I certainly think that there are legitimate reasons to criticize Dak Prescott. Don't get me wrong. But to look at the all-22 game film or any of the game film after the fact and be like, well, that guy was open. It's just, I mean, there also could be a reason he's open, right? Like the defense could be reading the quarterback and thinking they know what decision he's going to make. Now, maybe, again, that's a quarterback issue. I don't know. All I'm saying is there's 100 factors that when you see pictures of, well, this guy was open, I mean, there's 100 factors, and not all of them are just as, well, Dak missed him. Some are. Don't get me wrong. Some are, but not all of them. Andres Martinez says he missed guys because he's not in charge. He needs to be. Joe Tranchino wants to know if Xavier Woods is playing Sunday. No. He hasn't practiced all week. Initially, they said he would probably only miss a week, but he hasn't practiced all week. Even Jerry Jones, who's eternally optimistic, basically said that he'd be shocked if Xavier Woods is ready to go for Sunday. Which is a problem. They're going to need to have a free safety at some point, and they don't have one right now. They've got 2 strong safeties playing. The big one's Randy Gregory. He's not going to practice today. Practice is going on right now. Dak Prescott will speak to the media today after practice. I'm going to hopefully get out of here quickly after the stream and get over to the Star in Frisco so I can hear Dak Prescott speak. But Randy Gregory's not going to practice today. He's still in concussion protocol, but he still could play on Sunday. So who knows? We haven't gotten any information beyond, he's in concussion protocol and he hasn't practiced all week. All right, again, I'm Ari Temkin, broadcasting live on Phantom. You can also catch me on the pre- and post-game show for the Dallas Cowboys at 105.3 The Fan. We're going to be starting at 4 o'clock Central on Sunday for a 7:30 kickoff between the Cowboys and Giants, so that's going to be fun from AT&T Stadium. If you're coming out to the game, make sure to stop by the Miller Lite Plaza, the West Plaza, which is where we'll be broadcasting. Be sure to say hello to me. What about Tank's groin? I believe Tank will play on Sunday. Michael Lafferty says, yes, he did. He has ties to the one coach we have. What are you talking about, Michael? Let's see here. Brandon Robler says, Frederick is the brain of the O-line. Him being out hurts bad. He makes all the O-line adjustments. Yeah, and I mean, something else that I pointed out before the season started is, he and Zach Martin have played, Zach Martin's played every snap he's been in the NFL with Travis Frederick. So there's there's a way that those two can communicate without ever having to communicate. There's an unspoken way that those two communicate. But with that being said, I mean, Joe Looney had as good of a game as any of the offensive linemen on the Cowboys last week. I mean, he graded out, depending on which grade system you go off of, but he graded out better than any of the other offensive linemen on the team. So, I don't necessarily think that's sustainable, but I mean, if there's anything to complain about after week 1, I don't necessarily think it's Joe Looney. However, I think that's also unfair to what Travis Frederick's able to do, because maybe Connor Williams has a better game if he's playing next to Travis Frederick, right? And because Frederick is so good at reading defenses, understanding what has to happen, that Looney might be playing well on an island by himself, but that so much of what that center position is able to do is be able to help out guards on either side, those kinds of things. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of playing offensive lineman. By the way, Travis Frederick's awesome. I just have to say, he is such a cool guy. He's so great with the media. He's every day that I've been in the locker room, he's there. He's working out. He's obviously not practicing, but he's working out. He's doing as much as he can do, and he's always willing to talk. He's just very nice, smart, funny. I mean, he's I've dealt with a lot of professional athletes in my career. He is one of the nicest, easiest, best to deal with, and especially when it comes to being as good of a player as he is. Normally those guys, normally the nicer guys tend to be the ones that aren't as good of players, but Frederick is one of the best. Ross McCaden says, some of the throws that Dak made were scary bad. How do you think those throws affected his confidence? I mean, I think Dak Prescott's a guy that throughout the course of his career has had issues with accuracy. And so I don't know that it's killed his confidence. This is, by the way, my father-in-law's in the house. Meet Don. Don, this is my father-in-law, Joseph. My father-in-law's back in the house. How's it going, buddy? How are you? Good? Yeah? Excellent. You're going to try the hamburger? Excellent. Oh, nice. Burger or sliders? Nice. Burger. I'm broadcasting live at the Irishman Pub, by the way, at Preston and Frankfurt. If you live in the area, come by. And make sure to mention Phantom brought you here. Mark Ross says, people listen to the post game. Ari and Jesse do a great job. Mark, you're awesome, man. Thank you for saying so. And I don't know, Mark, if you made this comment, but to Ross's comment about Dak potentially having confidence issues, last week of the post game show, Jesse read the scouting report on Dak Prescott before he was drafted, what the college scouting report was on him coming out. And, I mean, it's crazy how it's like, oh, yeah, that pretty much describes him. Because, I mean, you think, there are a lot of scouting reports that are really poorly done and not right and not accurate. But this one in particular seemed to really dig at who Dak was. And the reason that answers Ross's question is because I don't know that it kills his confidence, because that's always been these kinds of things, accuracy issues, that's always plagued him throughout the course of his career. And yet he still was confident enough to have a 13-3 season. So I think, we've seen Dak have confidence in this league. The biggest question, obviously, is, you can have 1 year of success as a quarterback, by, scheme and, doing different things, sort of the Wizard of Oz thing, which is not peeking behind the curtain, right? But, to have sustained long-term success, greatness in the NFL at that position, you have to be able to make a lot of the throws. And, whether it's an unwillingness to, he doesn't want to make mistakes, whether he's just not good, those can all be factors, but he's just not pushing the ball down the field. And until he does that, until he proves that he can do it, and not only proves that he can do it, but consistently, tries to push the ball down the field, teams aren't going to play him straight up. It's the bottom line. Jason French says, do you think if Linehan called more play-action passes, it would help Dak? I think one way it would help Dak would be, to get Zeke more involved in the passing game. I just continue to be amazed by their inability to get Zeke more involved in the passing game. I mean, they basically talked about working throughout training camp on getting Zeke more involved in the passing game. You know, it's mind-boggling. This is a guy that's, you know, to me, I'd rather get Zeke more touches in the passing game because because it lessens the wear and tear that you're going to accrue when you run the football. Just one of the reasons I want Zeke to be more involved in the passing game, but they don't do it. So, I mean, obviously the run-pass option that's like a play action, right? I mean that I think helps him getting him on the move. I mean these are basic things that they know. And I don't necessarily think it was all scheme-driven for their failures last week. I mean, I think, when things look as bad as they looked on Sunday for the Cowboys, it's just everything. It's a combination of everything. It's not great play calling or scheming. It's not great quarterback play. It's not great offensive line. I mean, it's all those things. All those things conspired against the Cowboys' offense. Keith Price asks, is Dak free to call adjustments at the line? Yes. I believe so. But I also think, like, Romo had the full playbook, right? Like, Romo, I think he has a set amount of audibles. Like, there's only a couple of – and that's fine. It's still year 3. You don't want to overcomplicate things and give him a whole host of different plays to call. But, yeah, I mean, I would hope that he'd have certain audibles to call at the line of scrimmage. And we've seen him – I mean, it was one of those things they said they're going to do more of last year with him, and we saw it. I don't know that we saw a ton of it in week 1. But yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the evolution. I mean, you remember when Tony Romo was basically calling the entire playbook at the line of scrimmage, I mean, that's 10 years in the league that he had at his disposal to go off of. David Provencio says, get Tavon 10 touches and Zeke 30. I mean, how many touches did Tavon have? It seemed like he didn't have enough, but I also, I don't think Tavon Austin's to the point where you could be like, you've got to get him 10 touches. Like Zeke Elliott, yes. Zeke Elliott's so good, so dominant that you've got to get him X amount of touches. Like, I'm fine saying that. But there's no other player on offense for the Cowboys where I'm like, you've got to get him so many touches. Like, nobody's like that good, especially Tavon Austin, where it's like, you got to get him a ton of touches. I mean, if there's anybody in the receiving corps, they have that, it's got to be Cole, I would think. But I don't necessarily think it's anybody along their offense, especially beyond Zeke. All right, Dana Braining says feed Zeke more, weed down the field more. Dana Braining says I think it's going to be the Zeke show on Sunday just because of who we're playing. Yeah, and I mean, Damon Snacks Harrison's there, so that'll be another tough matchup for Connor Williams. Beyond that, I mean, Olivier Vernon's hurt. So they have Janoris Jenkins at the back end. I mean, they got some players on defense. I mean, it's not a bad defense, the Giants. I mean, they did give up 15 points to the Jaguars offense, so it doesn't seem to be a great defense by any stretch of the imagination. But, I mean, I think – look, again, I think the game plan against Carolina was West Coast style. They didn't want Dak to be susceptible to hits. They were worried about the offensive line holding, especially the interior, against that interior of the Carolina defense. I think that's fair. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We're talking about K'Wan Short and Luke Kuechly and Dontari Poe and what Carolina has in the interior of that defense. I think it's fine to, not try to push the ball down the field a ton, to not, to get the ball out quickly, to play that West Coast style. I think that's fine. I think it'll be a different story this week, and I think it should be. And I think it will be for 2 reasons. One, because they looked so bad in not pushing the ball down the field, and 2, because I think the defense will dictate that they should consider that they're going to have more opportunities to do it. JP Tremor says Landon Collins is a beast. Good point. Landon Collins is real good. I forgot to mention him. I'll talk about their defense. So they've got some players, no question about that. But overall, I think they have holes on their defense, so they're certainly beatable. All right, I'm Ari Temkin, broadcasting live from the Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt. I've been here all week, and tomorrow is my final day. So if you've been waiting all week to come hang out with me, make sure you join us tomorrow. And again, when you click on the event tab at the Phantom page, you're going to get half off appetizers. So make sure to mention Phantom, show the coupon, and get a half off appetizers here at the Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt Road. Over 30 beers on tap, great selection, great, fantastic food. So come by to the Irishman Pub, again, Preston and Frankfurt. I'm back tomorrow. Dak Prescott will speak today in the locker room, so I'll give you some insight into what he said. And perhaps also I'll get into what Travis Frederick said yesterday in the locker room as well. All right, noon o'clock with TJ Carpenter's coming up next. Make sure to stay tuned right here on Phantom, the new world order of sports media. But I appreciate everybody being a part of today's stream, as I am appreciative of everybody joining the stream every single day, no matter if it's your first time or you're a repeat visitor. I mean, I know J.P. Trimmer, he's been here before. Neil Falver, he comes every day. Keith Stone comes every day. Keith Price comes every day. The Keiths come every day. Mark Rawson, Joe Tranchina, Dana Braining, Wade Zetterberg, Eric Kashani, Diego Maestas, Sean Moore. Thank you to all who join the stream every day, who comment, who are part of the show and a part of the community of the show every day. And if it's your first time, well, then hopefully you'll become a repeat visitor. 12 o'clock every single day right here on Phantom, the new world order of sports media. But for now, I am out. Peace.